Okay, so we've got a stack of LegalShield user stories here. And wow, some of these are wild.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It's like reading a legal drama, but, less about the courtroom stuff and more about everyday people actually getting results.
Definitely. And what really strikes me is how important legal knowledge is in all these everyday situations. Like you might think legal stuff is just for big companies or those crazy court cases you see on TV, but these stories, they tell a different story.
Totally. It's not just about suing someone or anything like that.
Right.
It's about understanding how the law affects you in your everyday life.
Exactly.
Like, take that story about the DJ. Remember that one? The one where his equipment got completely trashed by the sprinklers at a country club?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
One letter from LegalShield, and boom, he's got a brand new computer. It sounds simple on the surface, but what's the legal strategy behind a win like that?
So often, venues try to protect themselves with contracts that limit their responsibility for damages.
Yeah.
Like those not responsible for signs you see everywhere.
Right, right.
But LegalShield probably helped the DJ prove that the country club either messed up the contract itself or was just plain negligent. And that made them liable for the damage.
Ah, so it wasn't just about getting a replacement. It was about knowing the ins and outs of the contract to get leverage. That's pretty smart.
Absolutely.
Okay, but this next story, this one really blew my mind. We've got a homeowner going up against a fraudulent timeshare company. Not only did LegalShield help them get out of that mess, but they also managed to secure reimbursements for airfare, maintenance fees,
Wow.
and even a free vacation.
Yeah.
How do you even turn a timeshare nightmare into a dream vacation using the law? That's some next level stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty crazy situation. In this kind of case, you'd need to prove that the timeshare company was being shady from the get-go, like they were making false promises to trick the homeowner into signing.
Like straight up lying.
Yeah, basically. It's
Right.
called fraudulent misrepresentation. So LegalShield would have helped expose that and not only get the contract thrown out, but also go after compensation for all the trouble they caused.
That is a classic David versus Goliath story. And it seems like a recurring theme here. I mean, we see it over and over in these stories. Individuals facing off against these giant entities, whether it's employers, businesses, HOAs, you name it. What do you think about that power imbalance, and how does LegalShield help even the odds?
You're absolutely right. There's a definite power imbalance when you've got individuals going up against these big organizations with their fancy lawyers and endless resources. And that's where LegalShield comes in. It's like having your own legal team in your corner, making sure you have the same access to legal expertise and someone to fight for you, regardless of your bank account.
It's like that saying, knowledge is power, right?
Exactly.
And we see a lot of people in these stories using LegalShield proactively. Like, they're not waiting for things to hit the fan. They're getting advice before even signing on the dotted line.
Being proactive is key.
There's that homeowner, the one who dodged a massive fee from a car dealership just because they had their contract reviewed beforehand. Talk about being savvy. What does that tell us about preventative legal action?
It's just like going to the doctor for a checkup, even when you feel fine. You might not think you need a lawyer to look over a contract, but catching those hidden issues early can save you a world of trouble and money down the line.
So LegalShield isn't just about fixing problems after they happen. It's about preventing them in the first place.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of preventing problems, how about that LegalShield member who ended up getting a $64,000 reduction on their mortgage? Their attorneys spotted an error on the statement and boom, major mortgage modification. That's life-changing. Break that down for me. How is that even possible?
Mortgages are super complicated. There's a ton of fine print that most people wouldn't even know where to begin with. But LegalShield's expertise is in understanding all that legal jargon and spotting anything that seems off. It could be a tiny miscalculation in the interest rate or some obscure clause that allows for renegotiation. The point is, having an expert eye on those documents can uncover hidden opportunities that you would never have known existed.
It really makes you think twice about all those contracts we sign blindly, doesn't it?
Sure.
We never really know what we're agreeing to. Having that legal safety net can make all the difference. But it's not always about those big, life-altering wins. Sometimes it's about handling those everyday snags that, let's be honest, could easily snowball into bigger problems if you don't tackle them head on. I mean, we've all had those moments where you're just like, wait, this can't be right. Can they actually do this? Like when you get hit with some bogus fee out of nowhere, or you're dealing with an HOA that's totally out of line.
Oh, tell me about it. HOAs can be a real piece of work.
Speaking of HOAs, there was that one story, the one with the woman who was getting harassed nonstop by her HOA about her dog. Drove her crazy, I bet. But LegalShield got involved, and finally she got a little peace and quiet. Makes you wonder, though, how much power do these HOAs actually have? And how does LegalShield help people navigate those situations? They can get so confusing.
Yeah, HOAs are notorious for having a million rules, and they're not always so clear-cut either. In that case, LegalShield probably looked over the HOA's rule book, their bylaws, and all the back and forth with the woman to make sure they were actually playing by the rules and not just, being difficult.
Right, because they can't just make up whatever rules they want and harass people.
Exactly. Sometimes a strongly worded letter from a lawyer is all it takes to remind them of that.
It's like laying down the law for the lawmakers.
Right. Exactly.
And it's not just HOAs. Sometimes it's about getting out of contracts or subscriptions that you're just done with. We got so many stories about people canceling gym memberships, those free trials that turn into monthly charges, you name it. Why is it so hard to just cancel things sometimes? And how does LegalShield cut through all that?
It's crazy how often companies make it a nightmare to cancel. They hide behind confusing terms and conditions or make you jump through hoops just to get out of something you never wanted in the first place.
Like they're trying to trap you.
Pretty much. But that's where having LegalShield is so helpful. They know exactly what your rights are and what the company can and can't get away with. They can walk you through the cancellation process, make sure you're following the right steps, and even deal with the company directly if you need them to.
So it's like having a legal bodyguard to fight off those sneaky contract clauses.
You got it.
And sometimes even just the idea of having legal help is enough to make a difference. Remember that story about the guy who used his LegalShield app during a traffic stop? Apparently that alone was enough to stop a sheriff from searching his car. Sounds crazy, right? But it really shows you the power of even just the perception of legal representation.
No, absolutely. Now, of course, legal situations can be unpredictable, and there's no guarantee about the outcome, but that story shows you how empowering it can be to have those legal resources at your fingertips.
Yeah.
It's about knowing your rights and not being afraid to stand up for them.
It's like that saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Having that backup gives you confidence, even in those unexpected situations. But let's be real, sometimes prevention isn't an option. Life throws you curveballs, and you find yourself needing some serious legal help. We got a lot of stories from people who are facing major financial losses, the kind that would keep you up at night, but LegalShield helped them recover what they thought was gone forever. What were some of the cases that really stood out in that category, and what were the legal strategies at play?
One that comes to mind is the story of a member who was dealing with a contractor who totally botched a job. I mean, we're talking a major financial hit.
Right.
But LegalShield helped them navigate all the legal stuff around contracts and ended up getting them a settlement that covered the repairs and then some.
Wow, so they actually came out on top?
They did. And then there was another story, a member who was a victim of identity theft. Talk about a nightmare. They were buried in debt that wasn't even theirs. LegalShield got their legal team involved, and they went to work clearing their name and getting those charges wiped from their credit report.
So they basically had to become legal superheroes.
Right. It often takes a combination of legal knowledge, negotiation skills, and a whole lot of persistence to get those kinds of results.
It's incredible how LegalShield is leveling the playing field, giving everyday people access to the same kind of legal firepower that used to be reserved for the wealthy and well-connected. But beyond the financial wins, it's clear from these stories that there's a huge emotional toll that comes with these legal battles. And just knowing you're not alone in that fight can make all the difference.
100%. Legal matters are stressful, period. Even the ones that seem simple can really weigh on you. But when you know you've got a team of experienced professionals in your corner, it takes a huge weight off your shoulders. You can actually focus on your life while they handle the legal stuff.
It's like having that safety net there to catch you if you fall. And that sense of security can be invaluable, especially when you're dealing with things like family disputes over inheritance or those dreaded property line battles with neighbors. Things can get pretty heated.
You're telling me.
Mm-hmm.
Emotions run high in those situations. And having that neutral third party to step in, offer some legal guidance, and maybe play mediator can be crucial.
Right, because things can escalate so quickly when it's personal like that.
Exactly. That's where LegalShield can really make a difference, just by being that buffer and helping everyone involved understand their rights and responsibilities from a legal standpoint. Sometimes just having that neutral presence is enough to bring everyone back down to earth and find a solution everyone could live with.
It's about finding that common ground and making sure everyone feels heard, which can be tough when emotions are running high. It's amazing how just having that legal knowledge can completely change the game. Suddenly, it's not David versus Goliath anymore, it's a level playing field. But even beyond the specifics of these cases, there's something bigger here, something that keeps coming up in all these stories. It's not just about winning legal battles, it's about how having that legal support empowers people. What are your thoughts on that?
It's huge. Think about it. When you feel confident in your legal standing, when you know your rights and have someone to fight for you, it changes your whole outlook. Instead of feeling intimidated or helpless, you can approach these situations with strength and knowledge.
Yeah, it's like you're facing a storm, right? And you can either face it with a flimsy little umbrella or a solid roof over your head. You might still get a little wet either way, but that feeling of security makes all the difference. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Legal Shield, what's the main thing you hope people take away from all this?
I hope these stories show people that legal issues, big or small, don't have to control your life. Having access to legal advice and knowing you have someone in your corner can make all the difference. It's about leveling the playing field and making sure everyone has a fair shot.
It's like having a secret weapon, but instead of weapon, it's knowledge. And it's not really a secret because it's available to everyone. It's been incredible to hear these real life stories, these legal wins, and I think we've only scratched the surface of how important legal preparedness is in our daily lives. So here's something to think about. What situations in your own life could benefit from a little legal perspective? You never know, a little foresight and the right guidance could make all the difference. Until next time, stay curious and remember, knowledge, especially legal knowledge, is power.